ॐ श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् अस्मद्गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Friends, we are in the Siddhanta Bindu text. In the previous class we had seen various theories regarding the nature of soul, like Abhasavada, Pratibhimbavada, and we had seen also what Vachasprit Mishra had got to say about the nature of the Jiva and Ishvara. So there we had seen that the Ajnana Nanatvat Jiva Nanatvam, one, Pratijivam cha Prapancha Bhedah. These two statements are very important because here the multiplicity of various souls can be justified on the basis of the multiplicity of Ajnana. That means after all it is the ignorance which differentiates Jiva. So therefore it is not the Jiva but Ajnana that is many. So Jiva is after all one. Prati Jivam cha Prapancha Bhedah. So how can you say that the same world appears differently to the same Jiva? If it is one Jiva, then the world experience must be same to the same Jiva. But here we can say that just because of that particular Ajnana through which the Jiva perceives the world appears to be many and varied. Jivasyaiva swa ajnana upahitataya jagad upadanatvat. And here also we can understand that Jivasyaiva swa ajnana upahitataya jagad upadanatva. So the individual soul, that means that embodied soul itself is the material cause of the world, jagad upadanatva. But how? Swa ajnana upahitatvena. Because that particular soul is embodied, it is conditioned by ignorance. So as long as ignorance persists there, so long that particular world will appear. So that kind of upadanatva, so the soul being the cause of the universe can be justified in this way, that is through ajnana only. Now what about pratibhijnana? That means how does the soul recognize the things? Pratyabhijna means recognition. So how that kind of recognition is possible? Because the same object like book, table, anything, today it is seen and the next day also it is seen. And to Jiva, one says it is the same object which you had seen, which is being seen by me. That means two are watching the same, but there is a kind of recognition that whatever you had seen earlier, the same is being viewed by me. So this kind of recognition is also possible in this way. How? Because of resemblance there, sadrushyat. That means on account of similarity in the object, this kind of recognition takes place. So though the soul is one, this kind of variation is possible just because of ignorance. Ishvarasya cha saprapancha jiva avidya adhishthanatvena karanatva upacharat. Now what about Ishvara? Because if you say the individual soul is the material cause of this world, what about Ishvara? Because all the other texts speak about Ishvara only. They propound the theory that Ishvara is the cause of this universe. Now this theory will go against the theory of the scriptures. So this is the problem here. Because if Jiva is the upadana karana, what about Ishvara? Tat tejo asrjata tad aikshata bahusyam prajayeya atmanaha akasha sambhutaha. So etc. in all these statements and other, Ishvara has been stated as the material cause of the universe. So if you say that individual soul is the material cause, then there will be contradiction. Now he says Ishvarasya cha saprapancha jiva avidya adhishthanatvena karanatva upacharat. That means the statement that Lord is the material cause of the universe is only upachara. Upachara means it is only secondary, it is not prime statement. That means all the scriptures do not primarily state that the Supreme Lord, Supreme God, Supreme Consciousness is the material cause of this universe. They won't say that. It is only upachara. Upachara means secondary word power. So it is only gauna, amukhya. How? Saprapancha jiva avidya adhishthanatvena. Because Ishvara is the adhishthana. Adhishthana means he is the preceding power there. What it precedes? Saprapancha jiva and avidya. That means the jiva, the individual soul, together with the entire world, and saprapancha jiva avidya. So together with these two, there is one avidya, and that avidya is being activated and motivated. It is being goaded by this Supreme Soul, and thus it is only attributed to the Supreme Consciousness. So Ishvara in this particular theory is not directly involved in the world process. It is only the creation of the individual soul. Ayamevacha avacheda vadaha. Now Madhusudana Saraswati explains that this particular theory is avacheda vada. Avacheda means condition. Avacheda means a kind of limitation. And here avachidyate ayam anena iti avachedaha. So that means ayam evam, ayam etavan, ayam etasmat bhinnaha. So this kind of limitation is seen everywhere. Now we see that a particular object is being limited there by space, by time. So this condition is called avacheda. Similarly, in the case of the individual soul and Supreme Soul also, we find that these are conditioned, and that particular condition is known as avacheda. And in avacheda vada, they consider the individual soul as the semblance or part of the Supreme Soul. So this is avacheda vada. And now ajnana upahitam bimba chaitanyam ishvaraha. Now we understand other theories also. According to this theory, what is Ishvara? What is God, Supreme Lord? It is ajnana upahitam bimba chaitanyam. So what we call God or Supreme Lord is only that kind of consciousness which remains as image and which has ignorance as its condition. That means there is some adjunct, there is some condition as ignorance. So when that particular same consciousness is viewed through that particular ignorance, then the consciousness appears as God. So God is the same consciousness, but only the thing is it is conditioned, or it is seen through, it is viewed through ignorance. And that particular Ishvara Chaitanya or that consciousness remains as image. And naturally it will have a reflection. Ajnana pratibimba chaitanyam jivaha. So in this theory, that particular Supreme Consciousness which remains as image gets a reflection in ajnana, and that ajnana shows the Supreme Consciousness as individual soul. This much is the difference. That means the same consciousness, when it is reflected in the ajnana, becomes individual soul. So this much is the difference between these two, Jiva and Ishvara. The difference is in ajnana. And some others say ajnana anupahitam shuddha chaitanyam Ishvaraha, ajnana upahitam jivaha itiva. Or we can say that consciousness which doesn't have any condition, any limitation, any adjunct is pure consciousness, and it is called Ishvara. And ajnana upahita, that means that consciousness viewed within ajnana is Jiva. So that's why these two are mere appellations, there is not much difference. And now here we say that if both Jiva and Ishvara are considered as Pratibimba, that means if we understand that both individual soul and Supreme Soul are below, and they are the reflections of one Supreme Consciousness, that is Shuddha, then the problem is that all the impurities of Jiva may accrue to the Supreme Soul also, to the God also. So this is the problem, because both become pratibimba. So that's why it is better that one pure consciousness is there, and that is the bimba sthana, and it has a reflection in ajnana, and that is the pratibimba. So this way also we can understand the bimba pratibimba vada. This is the explanation here. Itiva mukhyah vedanta siddhantah. So actually the prime theory, the principal theory of Vedanta is this, that after all it is the consciousness, it is the energy, but that energy is seen through ajnana, and because of this particular spectacle called ajnana, that consciousness appears as jiva here. Otherwise this is pure consciousness, this is pure energy, but the only thing is I am unable to realize it so, and my ignorance comes in between, and therefore the same consciousness appears to me as individual soul with all the limitations in time, in space, and in other matters also. And this conditioning is removed by the true realization of self with the help of the scriptural sentences. So that's what he wants to say. This is the principal theory of Vedanta known as Ekajiva Vadaha. Of course, there are several interpretations of this Ekajiva. Who is after all Ekajiva? How can it be one? The thing is, in all the substrata, in all the loci, that means in all the adhara, there are so many bodies, crores of bodies. In all the bodies, there is one energy called consciousness, and it is jiva, and therefore the Ekajiva Vada can be justified. Otherwise, you can say the only jiva, the true jiva is Hiranyagarbha, that is the Ajnanopahita Samashti Chaitanya. So that is the single jiva, and all the other which appear in the bodies are only jiva bhasa, that means they are apparent, they are not true. So this way also the Ekajiva Vada theory can be justified, and this is called Ekajiva Vada, which is substantiated in the Vedanta, which is supported by the Vedanta, and which has been variously understood and interpreted by the Vedanta teachers of yore. Imameva drushti srushti vadam achakshate, and therefore the traditional Advaita teachers call this particular theory as drushti srushti. Now we have to understand drushtireva srushtihi. That means drushti is my cognition, my comprehension. Srushti means creation. That means out of my intellect, out of my comprehension, I create the things, and thus I only create the entire world, because it is so conditioned in myself. So this my drushti is the srushti. So this is called drushti srushti vadaha. Drushtireva jagatah srushtihi. That's what they explain. Drushtireva jagatah srushtihi. That means actually the world exists because it is so perceived. If there is no perception at all, if there is no cognition at all, then how can we substantiate or justify that the world exists? So the world exists because I perceive. So we can say the existence of outer world depends on my perception. Thus drushti is actually the srushti. If it is not perceived, it cannot be there. So this is the basic theory there. Yadi nasyat nopalabhyeta. If it is not there, it would not be a matter of my perception, but it is a matter of perception. I watch everything, I perceive everything, I respond to everything, and this kind of response shows that there is something outside also, but it is created by my jnana. If it stops here, then everything vanishes. Thus drushti srushti vada attributes creation to the soul that is conditioned by ignorance. Asminscha pakshe, and in this particular theory, jivaha eva swa ajnanavashat jagad upadanam nimittancha. And in this particular theory, the individual soul is both the material and efficient cause of this world. That means it is both upadana karana, that which is inherent, and nimitta also, that which is only casual cause. How? Swa ajnana vashat. just because of his ignorance. That means the soul, because of his ignorance, creates the world and he becomes a part of that. And therefore, we say that he is Upadana and Nimitta. But in other texts of Vedanta, we find that the Supreme Soul, the Brahman, is Upadana and Nimitta. That means Brahman alone is the material cause and the casual, efficient cause of this entire world. Now, how do you reconcile these two contradictory views that says Drishyam Sarvam Pratitikam? Because of his ignorance, the individual soul creates everything, and Drishyam Sarvam, and whatever is appearing outside, that means all the jiva, all the world with its ignorance, everything is only Pratitikam. That means it is only Pratiti, it's only an appearance. That means the entire thing that appears is mere Pratiti or appearance, which will be contradicted later on. Deha bhedacha jiva bheda bhrantihi. Now, anybody may question, how do you say that the world appearance is only a pratiti, it's only an appearance? There are so many jiva, so many individual souls with all varying qualifications, eligibilities, all that. So how can you say that there is one? Now he says, jiva bheda bhrantihi, this is only an illusion. It is illusion of multiplicity of the souls, or you can say it is an illusion of the difference in all the souls, but basically there is one soul. But how? Deha bhedacha. That means you have this kind of illusion because the bodies are different. Because the bodies are different, you are unable to understand the one consciousness as individual soul. You are unable to know that. And once this condition is removed, the adjuncts are removed, there remains only one energy as jiva or the individual soul. Ekasya ivacha swakalpita guru shastradi upabrahmhita shravanmananadi dardhyat atma sakshatkare sati moksha. And to that particular soul, whoever perceives the world outside, there is of course liberation. But how? Shravana mananadi dardhyena. So when that particular individual soul gets the knowledge of Brahman and meditates on that and becomes one with that, then there will not be any difference at all. That particular individual soul is melted away in the supreme consciousness. But this is possible through several things he only has created. How the particular individual soul creates? Out of his ignorance, he creates. First, because of his ignorance, he finds so many limitations within him. He finds himself limited in time, space, everything first. And because he finds himself in limitations, he tries to get rid of that. And in order to get rid of that, that individual soul understands somebody as guru and something as shastra. This is all swakalpita. That means that particular soul only creates all this, guru, shastra, everything. And then upabrahmhita, and with the help of those only, guru and shastra, his shravana manana gets strengthened. And on the strength of this shravana manana, he becomes eligible for atmajnana. And after all, he will realize at the end that there is no other reality, it is only the Brahman. And once this realization takes place, then this particular feeling or experience of individual soul, that gets evaporated. And it is, in the words of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, it is a very beautiful experience that when a doll made up of salt tries to measure the depth of ocean, what happens to that? The doll gets into the ocean, and if it is merged into the ocean only to the knee level, that will be melted away. And as it gets in, it will be melted away. And the moment the doll gets into the waters, the moment it totally merges into the water, there is no salt idol, salt doll, no, it is gone, and it has become one with the ocean. See the thing here, it is a very beautiful example that the more we try to ponder over the secrets of the universe, we get into that, and when we become one with the reality, then we lose our identity. That's why some of the Santa also describe this particular situation in a very beautiful manner. They say, Lord, when we are in the under the influence of ajnana, we praise you, we worship you, we glorify you. But once we know you in your true form, then we lose all these things. We are no more ourselves and we become one with you. So this is the thing here. So the doll, it has an identity, but the moment it tries to enter into the waters of the ocean, it will lose its identity and it will be one with the waters of the ocean. Similarly is the situation with the individual soul also. He, under the influence of ignorance, can see something as different. Guru, Shishya, Ishvara, Deva, Puja, Aradhana, Upasana. So all these are possible when that individual soul is under the influence of ignorance. But with the power of meditation, when he comes out of the clutches of this particular ignorance, then there is no more any difference at all. That's why there cannot be any God to be worshipped. There cannot be any individual soul to worship, and there is no process of worship also, because there is only one reality. That's what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also experienced. So when he, in the beginning, when he was assigned with the duty of worshipping the goddess Kali, he was there and he worshipped in the beginning. But as the intensity developed, because of that intensity, he forgot himself. He could not see any goddess outside. And what happened later on, we all know that he just saw himself as the goddess and he started worshipping himself. He started offering all the prasadam to himself, all the arati etc. to himself. So that took place, and that is actually that particular point of time where the worshipper and the worshipped become one, and that is the tadatmya. And here he says that when the individual soul creates out of ignorance, the preceptor, the shastra, all that, he will naturally try to learn something. And when something is learnt, shravana, manana, first it is learnt from teachers and shastra, then applying his own logic, reasoning, it is strengthened within, and whatever knowledge he has got, it should mature into experience, and that personal experience is called nididhyasana. And that nididhyasana, that enables that particular individual soul to get the realization. And when that realization has taken place, then there will not be any difference at all. So this is the kind of spiritual progress. Sakshatkare sati, when the flow of energy is realized in its true form, there is no moksha. There is moksha. There is liberation. What is moksha? After all, it is realization. That means I don't have any bondage. I don't have any liberation. Nothing is in bondage. Nothing is getting liberation. So this kind of realization that it is an eternal flow of consciousness, an eternal flow of energy. So this kind of realization is moksha, and here there is no difference at all. Now there can be a question. If you say that a particular individual soul can get liberation, and in Ekajivavada, that means if we accept the theory for time's sake that there is only one individual soul throughout the universe, there is only one soul, then if one person understands the Shastra, practices Samadhi and realizes the Atma Swarupa, then there should be liberation. And because there is only one individual soul, everybody should be liberated, but it doesn't take place. That means we observe that individual souls like me are under the influence of ignorance, we are in bondage, and souls like Shuka, etc., they have got liberated. Now this much difference is there, and this is possible only when I understand the soul present here different from the soul present there. So this kind of difference being accepted, we can reconcile the theory of moksha also. Otherwise, if one person gets Atma Sakshatkara, then there should be liberation to all the souls. That is the problem here. Now, how can you reconcile the moksha attained by Shuka? Shuka attained moksha, but I have not attained. So how do you justify? And now Madhusudana Saraswati connects that and says, Shukadinam cha moksha shravanam arthavadaha. He says, yeah, whatever has been stated about the sages like Shuka, Ramana Maharshi, all that, it is only arthavada. That means it is mere eulogy. For what? It is for the sake of Shravana Manana. That means it is only to praise the efficacy of the sentences like Shravana Manana. So he wants to say that if you listen to the nature of soul from the Upanishads, you will be liberated. If you reason that and if you ascertain for yourself, then you will be liberated. And if you dive deep into the nature of the soul also, you will be liberated. So this kind of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana are mentioned in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and only to praise such sentences, these stories have been given to us. So Shuka Brahma moksha, that means moksha, liberation attained by Shuka Brahma, is only a kind of eulogy. It is only to praise the sentences of Shravana Manana. And after all, one moksha, that means it is moksha to everybody, because after attaining moksha, who can see whether the other person also has got liberation or whether he is in bondage? This is a very typical logical problem here. You understand? Because if I get self-realization, I get liberation, then I will not be there to see whether the other person also has got liberation or whether the other person is under the influence of ignorance. I cannot see that, because that influence of ignorance is removed. Then to see that ignorance in others, I should also have that ignorance. That is the problem there. And if I have the ignorance, then I will not get moksha. So this is the vicious circle there. In order to see whether the other people are in bondage, I should be under the influence of ignorance. If I am under the influence of ignorance, I have not got liberation. And if I have got liberation, then there is no individual soul, etc. There is no karta, bhokta, pramata. So who will be there to see whether the other person has got liberation? So that is the problem here. And now, okay, if you say that the sentences like Shravana Manana, these are only Arthavada. Now what about Mahavakya, Tattvamasi? Then he says, Mahavakyecha Tat Padam. In the Mahavakya of Upanishads, the sentences like Tattvamasi are, of course, to state the absolute identity of the souls. There is no difference at all to say that. But the Tat Padam, so Tat Tvam Asi, in this, the first word Tat, what does it signify? Ananta, Satyadi Padavat. So Tat signifies that pure consciousness which is Ananta and Satya, which is endless, eternal, and at the same time real. So that Tat stands for this particular meaning. Similarly, the same word Ajnana Anupahita Chaitanyasya Lakshanaya Upasthapakam, and we have to understand that the same word Tat can signify, through the secondary word power, the Ajnana Anupahita Chaitanya. That means the same word can stand for that pure consciousness which is not under the influence of ignorance. Ajnana Anupahita, that means ignorance does not touch it. That kind of pure consciousness is there, and that pure energy is signified by the word Tat. The only difference is it is through the secondary word power. because we have seen earlier also that the word gives direct meaning through direct word potency, and it gives the indirect meaning through secondary word potency. And if we take the word tat in the direct sense, then tat means that. That means that which is far away, that which is indirect, that which is separated. So all the things are there. That means difference will be prominent there. But if we take the secondary word power, then the word tat does not signify any separate thing. It is the same energy, but perceived as different because of ignorance. And once this particular ignorance is removed, then the energy flowing as Brahma, flowing as Jiva is one. So that is the idea. Ityadyaha avantara bhedaha swayam uhaniyaha. So Madhusudana Saraswati explains that this kind of intermediate differences, so several small differences will be there, and all these differences should be understood, should be imagined and answered by us on these lines. Now, there is a question. You say that the reality is one. Well, vastuni vikalpa asambhavat. Naturally, there will not be various options regarding one particular object. Katham paraspara viruddha mata pramanyam. Then how can be diverging theories authentic here? That means if there is one reality, and when there is no chance of options regarding one reality, so how can there be the authenticity of varied ideas regarding the same? So different ideas regarding different comprehensions, perceptions regarding the same reality cannot be authentic at the same time. Tasmat kimatra heyam kim upadeyam. So therefore, since there is no authenticity of such vikalpa, kimatra heyam kim upadeyam, what should be abandoned and what should be accepted? So that is the problem here, because it is the same reality, and whatever difference is there, it is only in the comprehension. So what should be taken, what should not be taken? Iti chet na kayeva maha. So Madhusudana Saraswati replies, no, it is not so. Who told that? Who told you that there will not be any option regarding a single object? Vastuni vikalpo na sambhavati iti kayeva maha. That means, who states that there will not be any option regarding single object? Are sthanurva purushova rakshasova ityadi vikalpasya vastunyapi darshanat. Our regular experience shows that there can be options regarding one object also. How somebody sees something in darkness at a distance, he sees, but because of the darkness he will not get a clear vision of that. Then there will be so many options there regarding the same object, whether it is a post, whether it is a person, whether it is a rakshasa, etc. So these variations are possible there regarding single object. Atatvike sa kalpana purusha buddhi prabhava yantu shastriya jiveshwara vibhagadi vyavastha iti chet. Now, okay, that kind of possibility is there. Options are possible regarding one object. Okay, we accept. But atatvike sa kalpana, that means in our world experience, whatever conjecture is made, it is only atatviki, unreal. Purusha buddhi prabhava, and that kind of option is born out of his own intellect. That means the person perceiving gets that kind of option. Iyam tu, but don't compare this with the world experience, because this is shastriya. Now whatever we are discussing, this is shastriya, this pertains to the scriptures, and here Jiveshwara Vibhagadi Vyavastha Shastriya. That means whatever distinction we have made, classification we have made as this is Jiva, one class, this is Ishvara belonging to the second class. So this way in the world we have made the classification that all the Jiva, all the individual souls fall under one group, and Ishvara, he belongs to another group. So this kind of Vyavastha, it is Shastriya. It is not that I have created, but it is substantiated in the Shastra itself. So that's why you cannot compare both. One is Laukiki and other is Shastriya. So this is the difference. If the opponent says like that, Madhusudana Saraswati puns, he says, ha, Nunam ati medhavi bhavan. Oh, you are really great wise man. Advitiya atmatattvam hi pradhanam phalavatvat ajnatatvatcha prameyam shastrasya. Oh, you are a very clever man, but you understand Advitiya atmatattvam hi pradhanam phalavatvat ajnatatvatcha prameyam shastrasya. Shastrasya pradhanam prameyam kim? What is the thing to be realized in the entire Shastra? What does the entire Shastra Vangmaya propose as the ultimate thing to be realized? Madhusudana Saraswati reminds that it is only the Advitiya Atma Tattva. That means the pure secondless self, the pure secondless consciousness. And that consciousness is the Brahman. So this is actually the summum bonum of the entire literature of Vedanta. So this is actually the Prameya. Prameya is the thing to be realized, and this is the thing to be understood, realized, that the soul is one without any second, and it is the Brahman. It is the same energy which is passing through the entire universe, which has enveloped the entire universe, and that is the same energy which is passing through me also. So this kind of realization is the highest goal of all Vedanta. Jiveshwara Vibhagadi Kalpanastu Purusha Buddhi Prabhavapi Shastrena Anudyante Tattvajnana Upayogitvat. Then the opponent may question again, oh, you say that this is all my creation and this soul is one and secondless. Well, we accept. But the scriptures themselves, the Upanishads themselves present the theory Jiva Ishvara Vibhaga. So they only show that Ishvara is different, Jiva is different, Ishvara is the controller and Jiva is the controlled, and Jiva, he takes several births by the grace of Ishvara only, and even realization is by the grace of Lord, etc. So there is clear-cut distinction between the individual soul and the Supreme Soul, and this is presented in the Shastra. So how can you say that this is Ashastriya? So this is Shastriya only. Now Madhusudana Saraswati says, of course, Shastra itself has presented that kind of distinction only at the initial stage. That means when we pass through the several births, and when we get that kind of spiritual elevation, then we get on to that particular stage, and till that several other steps will also become necessary. That means, of course, that is the highest goal, but all at once we cannot get on to that particular stage. We will have to pass through several tests, we will have to pass through several stages. So it all depends on what kind of ignorance we are under. So here Jiva Ishvara Vibhaga Bheda Kalpana, all kind of exposition of the difference of Jiva and Ishvara is of course presented in the scriptures, but it is for our sake. It is only Purusha Buddhi Prabhava. Of course, it is the creation of various individual souls, and because of their intellect, using their intellect only, they have created such kind of difference. And what about Shastra? Does it corroborate that? Yes, Shastrena Anudyate. Shastra, what does it do? It actually considers all the various views of all these fellows. It considers, it presents those theories, and Tattvajnana Upayogitvat. But after all, it discards that, because whatever is very useful for our realization, Shastra will also take that into consideration. It will take into consideration, but after all, at the higher level, it will show you that a particular thing should be discarded and we should move ahead. So this kind of exposition of Srishti, exposition of the difference between Jiva and Ishvara, everything is necessary in Tattva Jnana. But once that particular point is achieved and all these conjectures, all these elaborations are no more required. It is simple that when we are getting into some place which is very dark, we require some light. And once we get into that, we put that light besides and we go ahead. See, from darkness we get into light, and while passing through that darkness we require light to get into the light. Okay, but once we get into light, then this particular small light or lamp or the torch is no more necessary. Similarly, we understand that to get into ourselves we require some support, as Omkara or Bijakshara or mantra, some support is required so that we can get into ourselves, and once we get into ourselves, there no more such things are required. So this is the basic difference there. We understand that when we go to office, we go by a vehicle, and once we reach the office, we park the vehicle outside and we get into the office. It is simple that it is only an instrument, it is only a particular exposition required for realization. And that's why in grammar also they have made all the differences, all variations. They said this is sentence, and sentence has some words and words have some letters. All this elaboration is made in the beginning, and the grammarians also in Sanskrit explain that once you attain the higher level, then sentence becomes the prominent one, and all the other differences, all the other distinctions, they vanish, because sentence is the principal component of language which actually conveys the idea. And once you listen to the sentence, you don't bother about the components, but initially you will have to learn the components. You will have to understand what are the letters, alphabets, and how words are made, and what are the distinct features of the words. What is adjective, what is adverb, what is noun, pronoun, all this you require in the initial stage. But once you transcend the limitations, once you go beyond that, then you don't require that. You just say, you just speak, and I hear the sentence and I understand that. So this is actually the process of elaboration there. All elaboration is required in the beginning, and once we reach the higher level, the elaboration is no more required and we become quiet. The same thing is reiterated here, that the elaboration in the form of the Upanishadic sentences saying about creation, destruction of the universe, of individual souls, their limitations, and the Supreme Soul, all that is only to prepare us for the higher stage. And through this, when we reach the higher stage, then there will not be any difference at all. Phalavat sannidhau aphalam tadangam. Now, in support of his theory, Madhusudana Saraswati quotes a maxim from Mimamsa Shastra, where it is said, Phalavat sannidhau aphalam tadangam. Phalavat and aphala, there are two things. Phalavat means which has some fruit, that means regarding which some fruit is ordained, mentioned, that is phalavat. Aphalam means that kind of thing for which no fruit is separately mentioned. Two things are there. One, phalavat, which is saphala, and second, aphala. Two things are there. Take, for example, the Darsha Purnamasa Yaga, a kind of sacrifice, Darsha and Purnamasa. So, in that particular sacrifice, we find Darsha Purnamasa Bhyam Swarga Kamo Ejeta. So, this is actually the Phala Utpatti Vakya. There is both Utpatti and Phala Vakya also. That a person seeking heaven should perform the sacrifice called Darsha and Purnamasa. Now, the fruit of that particular sacrifice is mentioned here, therefore it is phalavat. And another is there, some prayaja anuyaja are mentioned somewhere. Now their fruit is not mentioned. So this particular darsha purnamasa, the result is mentioned, and other small accessories are there, the fruit is not mentioned. Phalavat sannidhau, but when they both are combined, when some rites or rituals for which no separate fruit is mentioned, that kind of rites are mentioned together with another kind of rites for which a fruit is mentioned, we have to understand that phalavat sannidhau aphalam, what does it happen? Tad angam. So the rite without any fruit, that means for which a separate fruit is not mentioned, becomes auxiliary to that pradhana, to that principal act. That's why in our Darsha Purnamasa context, we understand that small actions or rituals which are performed but for which no separate fruit is mentioned become auxiliary, secondary to the principal action, that is the Darsha Purnamasa Yaga. Thus, in the entire Mimamsa Shastra we understand that that particular thing is the Anga. Anga means auxiliary or supported. How does it support? It supports the principal act, and because this particular activity is performed for the sake of other thing, it becomes Anga. And whatever is performed ultimately not for some other action but for the result, it is called Pradhana. This is the difference between Angi and Anga, Pradhana and Anga, and very popularly discussed in the Mimamsa Shastra. So here also, when phalavat sannidhau aphalamapi tadangam bhavati. So on the strength of this particular maxim, we understand that here Advitiya Atma Tattva is the phalavat, and a fruit is mentioned for that. The entire Upanishadic literature extols the greatness of Atma Sakshatkara, self-realization. It says that the person who realizes his own self will get rid of all the bondage, he will become one with the Brahman. So all this is mentioned regarding the Atma Ekatva Jnana, because it says Atma Samsthaha Amritatva Meti Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhoti. So these are all sentences for which a fruit is mentioned. Tarati Shokam Atmavit. So such kind of result is mentioned regarding such sentences. So these sentences, that means Tarati Shokam Atmavit, such sentences are phalavat. And all the other, the difference of Jiva from Ishvara, etc., all these are of course mentioned in the Shastra, but without any fruit, without any result, purpose. And therefore, such sentences should be understood together with the sentences as auxiliary to the main sentence. That's why it is all left us how we can understand such sentences. With the help of Mimamsa Shastra, we can understand the difference between such sentences. Though all sentences look alike in the Upanishadic Vangmaya, we have to take help of the Vedanta Shastra, Mimamsa Shastra. Then we can understand that the sentences are of course different. Some sentences are pradhana, they are the principal sentences. They directly deal with the reality, and other sentences, they only support. And if we follow this particular tradition, then we can get rid of all the contradictions in the Upanishadic sentence formation, and we can get on to the true purport of the Upanishadic ideology. Then if we can get hold of that particular purport, then we can get rid of all the psychological conditions, and we can get above that, and with the help of that, slowly we can mature for self-realization. And self-realization means it is only Brahma Bhava. So therefore, here we have to understand the nature, limitations, and that particular science of sentence analysis. Otherwise, we cannot get on to the real meaning of the Upanishads. Brahmasiddhasyapi Shrutya Anuvada Sambhavat. This is also a very important statement here. Brahma siddhasyapi shrutya anuvada sambhavat. Now you may say, if the entire difference is only a creation of my illusion, this is only illusion, then why does the scripture mention that? Why does the scripture mention about the entire universe if it is only mithya? That is the problem here. Of course, the Dvaita scholars have been raising this particular issue, that if the entire world were only an illusion, then the scripture would have not elaborated that Srushti. Because that Srushti is real, the scriptures mention about that. That is their contention. And now Advaita thinkers very strongly refute that particular ideology and say that of course the entire world experience is mithya, but still scriptures mention the Srushti Sthiti Samhara of this creation. Why? Brahmasiddhasyapi Shrutya Anuvada Sambhavat. They say it is not Pradhana, it is only Anuvada. What is Anuvada? The Mimamsa Shastra says, Praptasya, Manantarena Praptasya Punaha Kathanam. It is actually stating something which is already obtained with the help of another means. Something is obtained and it is only a kind of restatement of the mentioned thing. So the Shruti also mentions, of course, the entire universe as created, as dissolved, everything is mentioned, but the same scriptures reiterate somewhere that all this is to be negated. Now, if everything is to be negated, then why is it mentioned? That is the problem here. Now for that, the Vedanta Paribhasha also has an answer. It says, if you have to understand Brahman as the pure consciousness, as the reality in which there is no Jagat etc., you will have to understand what is the Jagat. Pratiyogi pramitim vina pratishedhasya anupapannatvat. So it is a general maxim that when something is to be negated, first you will have to have the knowledge of the thing to be negated. That means if you want to say that there is no pen on this book, you are negating the presence of pen on this book, okay, but for that you will have to have the knowledge of pen, otherwise you cannot negate it. Similarly, if you want to say that the Brahman is pure, you will have to say what is that purity. Pure means it is devoid of all the conditions, all the limitations. Then you will have to define what are the limitations, what are the attributes, and all the conditions, all the limitations, all the attributes is equal to the world. Therefore, if you want to understand the Brahman in its pure form, you will have to define purity, and in order to define purity, you will have to understand the world, and you understand the world with the help of scriptures, then you will negate the entire thing in the Brahman. Otherwise, the pure realization of Brahman will be out of place. This is logical exposition of the Jagat here. So he says, Brahmasiddhasyapi Shrutya Anuvada Sambhavat. Though it is Brahmasiddha, that means the world experience is only illusory. Well, but the scriptures do not give importance to the exposition of the world. If the world appears to me in its present form with all the limitations, the scriptures need not come in between. The scriptures need not interfere, saying the same thing once again. They do that not for their sake. The scriptures elaborate the creation, dissolution, everything of the universe along with the difference of Jiva, Ishvara, everything. In the initial stage, it is only a kind of restatement, and that will be further negated in the absolute Brahman. One has to evolve from this world only. One has to rise up from the limitations of the world only to get merged into the ocean of consciousness called Brahman, and that particular moment will be the end of his existence as individual soul. And that is actually the highest goal of this Vedanta ideology. एतेन द्वैतज्ञानेन अद्वैतज्ञानस्य बाधः निरस्तः. Another important point there. Dvaita Advaita Jnana Badhaha. This is actually the Purvapaksha or the view of opponents. What do they say? The other thinkers, what do they say? It is of course based on direct perception. Dvaita Jnanena. That means on the strength of direct perception, these thinkers say that the world is real. And whatever the Advaitins say, it is unreal according to them. Because direct perception supports the duality, difference. And whatever we have been proposing in the Upanishads, all that is Advitiya Jnana. That means secondless Brahman. And those Dvaita thinkers say that your Advaita is only your mental fabrication. You only have created. It is only your illusion, but there is no Advaita, it is only Dvaita. Because this world experience of duality that cancels your Advaita, your non-dual experience, it will cancel that. That is their problem. What do they say? They say, Ayam Pataha, Ayam Ghataha, Ayam Vrikshaha. So everywhere you find difference. Each object is different from the other. So how can you say that there is only one reality? That is the problem there. And it is really very serious problem. And Pratikarma Vyavastha is also a big problem there. That means you do something and you get the result. You see something, you get the knowledge. So this kind of a very fixed pattern will not be there if there were only one reality. If you say there is one reality, there should be one knowledge, there should be one experience. But we find here experience of duality. This is direct perception. And whatever you say, it is going against this. That is the problem. Now Madhusudana Saraswati says, yeah, your direct perception is nullified before the scripture. Scripture is the highest authority in the matters of spiritualism. Regarding spiritual matters, you consider the scriptures as the highest reality, highest authority and evidence. Okay. But if your experience is not going against the scriptures, the experience also is taken into consideration. That's what our Adya Shankara Bhagavad-pada also says in his Bhashya on Taittiriya Upanishad. He says, well, you rely upon only Shastra. But for us, Shastra is also Pramana. But if experience of realized souls is to be taken into consideration, we don't stop it. We take it into consideration. Thus, to us, Shastra and experience both are Pramana. But for you, only Shastra is the Pramana. It goes against the experience also. That is the problem there. Now, coming to our present point, when the dualists argue that the duality is a matter of direct perception and it is very strong, and non-dual pure consciousness and the Atma and Brahma being one, etc., all this is only mental fabrication which doesn't have any strength at all. Now Madhusudana Saraswati answers to them, saying that whatever we have been arguing so far, that is in support of that particular Advitiya Brahma, and that pure consciousness is the lone reality, and all the difference is only a creation of ignorance. That ignorance poses itself in various forms, various objects, various souls, all that. And once we understand that all this is happening under the influence of ignorance, we can know that pure consciousness. Of course, another point is also there, that it is not very easy to get rid of the snare of this kind of ignorance. Because what is after all ignorance? My ignorance means nothing but my mind. And what is my mind? Nothing but my ideas, opinions, idiosyncrasies, emotions, feelings, all these. And what is the source of all these? The source of all these is only impressions. What are these impressions? These are deep rooted tendencies. Of course, some modern scholars go to the extent of calling this as genetic fabrication. That means our genes decide this. They only express themselves here, and according to the genetic code there, I offer myself to the world. I see the world like that. I understand the world like that. So everything is in the genes, and the genes do not have any particular shape. They are only some chemical design. What is that after all? DNA, RNA, what is that after all? And when we try to delve into the depth of that particular thing there, we understand that it is very subtle, and it is in the form of impression like microchip. In the computers also we see a very small microchip carrying thousands of volumes of the books also. Similarly here, that particular microchip carries everything, and because of these impressions, the feelings, emotions, everything is carried, and that is the mind. And because of the mind there is ignorance, and because of ignorance there is the entire world. And thus the world is only a creation of ignorance, and the ignorance being removed, there is only one reality as pure consciousness, Brahman. So this is the final theory of Advaita. And with this we stop the class here, and in the next class we will see how Madhusudana Saraswati explains the other theories in a very succinct manner. So, Shanti Shanti Shanti.